Ciao, today's video starts in the fridge.
Most important place in the house.
Absolutely. We went to the supermarket earlier and we found a lovely 16-ounce ram steak. I have cooked a steak on the barbecue in the summer when it was warm. Today I'm going to be showing you how I cook my ram steak indoors when it's cold on the griddle.
And it is cold today, everybody. 9 degrees in the UK. It's Parky.
So here it is. Let's get that out. And let's move to the kitchen where I'm going to show you how I start. So I'll be cooking a 16-ounce ram steak, and this is actually quite thick. It's well over an inch on one side, and then it gradually reduces to about 1 centimeter at the other side.
And can I point out, everybody, that Piglet there saw it in the shop and he got very excited, and we were having one each, and then he got home and realised it was maybe a bit too enormous, even for us.
Even for us, indeed. Anyway, I will remove the covering cellophane first. We'll be eating in about 1 hour and 20 minutes, so this part is about preparing the steak, and I will be getting it out of the fridge for a good 45 minutes before I griddle it, but I will be salting it, and I'm going to show you what I do. So first of all, let's remove it from this plastic tray onto a wooden board. Oh look, piece come off. And I'm going to be using a rock salt on both sides. This is one side, turn it around, and here's the other side. And I will leave it for 45 minutes. What the salt will do, it will very gradually dissolve, and it will draw the moisture out of the steak, and at the same time it will penetrate the steak, and it will effectively make it very flavorful. And before I cook it, then I will remove any moisture left. You can also use clearly thinner steaks, but if you were to do it with thinner steaks, do not necessarily need to be out of the fridge 45 minutes beforehand. But also I would not use rock salt. You could use a normal fine salt, because they do not really need to be salted beforehand, as they are only thinner. So this only applies if you are cooking a very thick steak like me today. So I'll see in about 45 minutes. So half an hour has passed, and in the meantime I'll get on with my side dishes. And as the great George Michael used to say, if you're going to do it right. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to cook with my steak. I've got here some rosemary and also some thyme. Optional if you don't like rosemary or if you don't like thyme, but I'm sure that you do.
Or sacrilege if you don't. You wouldn't last long in this house if you didn't like Italian flavours.
Or garlic. So I'll mix them all together, and I'll give them a very good chop with my knife. And try and get your herbs as fine and small as you can. I will be actually cooking some wedges. I've got a big potato here, but also we found these beautiful little cherry tomatoes today, and we will be doing those as well. So I'll split my herbs in half, and I'll pick one half in one bowl. This will be for my wedges, and this will be for my tomatoes. And as they will need to be cooking for longer, I'll get the wedges ready first. So I'm removing the peel from one medium-sized clove of garlic, and that goes in my wedges bowl. I think garlic crushes like this are one of the best inventions ever.
What, just after the light bulb?
Yes, after the light bulb and the sandpaper. This is smoked paprika, which I will be adding maybe about half a teaspoon if I can manage it, and that will give my wedges a lovely colour, but obviously also a beautiful flavour and a little bit smokiness as well. Bit of pepper. I will not be adding any salt. As always, I add salt at the end when the wedges are cooked. Also, I'm not sure if you're aware, but if you were to put salt in now, that salt will also draw water from the potatoes, a bit like the steak, and you don't want any water when you're cooking your wedges, so leave it to the end. And I'll finish my wedges marinade with a little olive oil.
Oh, a lot.
About a couple of the spoons. Put this out of the way, and I'll chop my potato next. So I've got a nice large potato. I'll chop it in half first, and this will be cooking for about 30 to 35 minutes in the oven. So I fancy them nice and long. So from each half I'll make 4 different wedges, just like this, nice and big ones. That will be half for Julie and half for me. Back to my marinade. give it a good mix, and I add my wedges. I'm trying to be civilized and use a spoon, but I shouldn't have, really.
Not going to work, is it?
I'm going to use my hands. Maybe a bigger bowl would have been better, but that's what I've got now.
That's good, they're all covered.
Yeah, perfect.
It smells yummy.
Baking tray, and in they go.
Ooh, do you need one of my spatulas, dear?
I do, and don't forget all of the rest, of course. Just pour it in. That would be sacrilege to leave it behind.
Absolutely.
And now that they are in here, I'll give them one final mix. And what I do, to ensure that they cook evenly, by the way, I'll turn them skin side down, so that I will then give them a toss later, and they will be brown all over first. You'll have noticed that I left the skin on the potatoes. I've done that on purpose because it adds lots of fiber and also texture, and it's really, really nice. So I recommend you do the same if you can. And these are ready to go in the oven. As I mentioned, about 30 to 35 minutes. My temperature of the oven is 200 degrees. Fan oven or conventional oven, doesn't matter, the same temperature will be fine. So I'll put them away, and I'll crack on with the rest. Tomato time next. Oh, sounds quite good, tomato time.
Tomato time.
So here is my bowl with my herbs, and I'm actually going to use the same bowl I did earlier, so that I get some of the flavor from the previous marinade as well. Why waste it? And the reason why I'm doing this separately is because I don't want the garlic or indeed the paprika with my tomatoes, so just a little olive oil.
There might be a little hint left in the jug, but
Yeah,
not
but
much.
a little hint is okay. And I'll go back with my spoon and mix it together. So this consists of thyme, rosemary, and olive oil, and also a little pepper. So here are my beautiful mini cherry tomatoes. And very simply, I'm now going on top of my tomatoes, and I'm applying my marinade.
And very simply, he's going over the top of his toes with his marinade. Just in case you didn't get it the first 3 times.
I'll give them a good old mix in my tin. But I'm also turning them around so that they all get covered in oil. And I'll turn them around once again, so that when they cook, the stem faces upwards. This will not need to go in the oven for 30 to 35 minutes, otherwise you'll end up with a pulp. Maybe 10 minutes.
I would say you'd end up with like little hard lumps.
Yes, God knows what it will be like. So I'll put them on one side. They will marinate anyway, but towards the end, maybe 10 minutes before we're ready, I'll pop them in, and then we can cook them alongside the chips. And lastly, I will do a little marinade also for my steak, but I'm not going to use any thyme, just rosemary. That's why I'm doing this now separately. But I will not be chopping this as fine as the first batch. I will leave it slightly bigger so that it will look nice on top of my steak. Something like this would be perfect. Same bowl for the 3rd time. I mentioned garlic earlier, so I will be using 1 clove of garlic as we really love it, but you can actually take it out altogether if you don't fancy garlic. But using my magic garlic crusher, I will crush this in as well. As I always say, they are great tools, but they are a little bit annoying when it comes down to cleaning them. Again, a little pepper, and as you might have guessed, olive oil. Again, maybe 1 teaspoon is enough. And I'll mix this all together once again. So in the meantime, 40 minutes have passed, and here's my steak. Some kitchen paper. And I'll just go on top of my steak to absorb any moisture or any water which is being released. I want to sizzle my steak, so I don't really want any water in there if I can avoid it. And if you look, my paper, there were 2 pieces in here, is quite well soaked with juices now, which is great. Conveniently, I've got this little piece which will come handy in a minute. I'll show you why. But anyway, I'll just pour all of my marinade on the steak. Time to get my hands dirty again, so I'll just go all over it and massage it. Both sides, of course. And I have to say, the smell of the garlic and the rosemary together is already amazing. Little piece, very, very handy to clean the bowl. So I'll go in.
I did wonder what you were going to do with that.
And I'll just go around and make sure that I use every little bit of my marinade to use this little piece of meat, and that's ready as well. And I'm ready for now, but I need to wait until the potatoes are partly cooked, so there'll be a good 20 minutes before I turn them around. So I will wait until 15 to 20 minutes beforehand, and then that is when I'll put my tomatoes in the oven, and I will also show you how I do my steak on my griddle. By the way, you might be wondering why I've put the steak 45 minutes out of the fridge, room temperature. That is because the steak is quite thick, and by getting to room temperature, it will cook evenly across both the top, the bottom and the middle. You don't need to worry too much for thinner steaks, but if you think about this chunky steak, there is a danger. It will not be cooking for very long, especially if you're doing it rare or medium rare. It will not be cooking for very long. There is a danger that it would be probably cooked on the top, but might be cold in the middle, whereas actually reaching room temperature will give you a gradual better cooking experience. So I'll see you in a little while when we're ready. By the way, also, it'd be interesting to hear from you how you cook your steak. This is how we do ours, and it is perfect for us, but you might have a perfect recipe you might want to share. Be very, very keen to learn how you do yours, but see you in a few minutes. 22 minutes on, and time to turn my wedges around, and I'm going to show you what they look like. Besides them making a wonderful noise, they look great already.
They're singing.
They are indeed, and quite simply, I just go along and just turn them around really, so that the top now gets lovely and brown as well. And while I'm at it, I make sure that I spread them across the base so that they get covered in oil again. And they're ready to go back in the oven for another 15 minutes, and tomatoes will go in 5. And I'm ready to get the steaks on, but I'll prep my griddle first. I've got a brush here, and I'm going to pinch some of the oil from here, and I'll just make sure that my griddle is nice and oily. Now, I will not be able to talk while I'm cooking this because it will be cooking at the highest temperature, and it's going to be a lot of noise. So I'll explain now what I'll do, but I will just show you the odd clip. So firstly, as this is a very thick steak, this part here, which is the thickest part, will go in the middle once the griddle is nice and hot, and the thinner part will go towards the outside. So that will ensure that they cook broadly at the same time, as the outside of my ring is going to be not as hot as the middle. Also, we will be doing our steak medium rare, so I will be cooking each side for 3 to 4 minutes, no more than 4 minutes if you want medium rare, and I will only be turning them once. Do not play with them, keep turning them around, only the once is enough. However, if you like your steak to be rare, 2 minutes. If you like it to be well done, make sure that you cook until there are no more pink juices coming out. But be careful, because if you have your steak well done, make sure that after a little while you turn the temperature down. So start on the highest setting, but maybe after a couple of minutes turn the temperature down, because otherwise you might have the risk of burning your steak, and you do want the middle to be cooked, but also you do not want to burn the outside. So I'll move on to the onto the hob, and I'll show you what I mean. My griddle has been on the hob now for a good 90 seconds, and if you look, it's really, really hot. There's steam coming up, and it's on a maximum here, number 9. The chunkier bit goes in the middle, including the little bit. And any olive oil and herbs left from my board, they can go on top. And my very noisy fan are about to come on now. 4 minutes, and I'll turn them around. And the steak is ready. Now, my hob is very, very powerful, by the way. So I started on number 9, but literally within a minute, I turned it down on number 7, otherwise it would have burned. And also, I didn't cook them for 4 minutes per side, I cooked them for 3 minutes per side. So you'll have to really judge depending on the power of your hob. Obviously, if you're using gas, be careful because it's even more powerful. But 3-4 minutes, depending on how powerful your hob is. But this is looking perfect, and they're still sizzling, so I will actually remove it from my pan, and I'll put it on a bit of wood, and I will leave it here now to rest for 5 minutes, and that will let the juices go through the steak, and then we can slice it. In the meantime, I'll get some ciabatta rolls ready. I'll start by slicing them in half. And I'll sprinkle a little olive oil on each slice, like so. A little bit of oregano on each slice alongside the olive oil, and pepper. And I'll put them back on the same griddle where I did the steak, so there is a little bit of the chocolatey flavor as well. And literally, I'll just cook them for about a couple of minutes, and they will be ready. So my wedges are out and then done, and so are my beautiful cherry tomatoes. Look at them, Julie. Ooh, can't wait.
Lovely.
Perfect. If you remember, I didn't salt either the wedges or the tomatoes, so I'll do that next before I forget. And I will sprinkle a little parsley on top of my wedges just to garnish. And as they're really hot, the parsley will release an amazing flavor. And before I slice the steak, I will put a little balsamic drizzle on top of my cherry tomatoes. And just like this, and this will be amazing. Let's have a look at the steak, shall we?
Ooh, look at that.
Wonderful. I will be doing slices approximately 1/2 centimeter each, and then I'll serve it up. Of course, this is medium rare. Maybe it's more on the rare side than the medium side. As I mentioned before, you can leave it for longer if you prefer it to be well cooked or even done. But as it has been resting, you can see that it's lovely and moist in the middle, and it will be absolutely delicious.
It's a good job our son Alessandro wasn't here. He'd have eaten that lump on the end, that loose piece. Oh, Roberto, that would have gone.
He would have been gone long ago. Anyway, let's put a little plate together. And I'm going to be using one of my favorite slates for this sort of meals. And it looks and it smells absolutely divine. And to make it presentationally good, I'll put one in there.
Oh, we've been watching too much Gordon Ramsay, I suspect.
No, not Gordon here.
Too much Gordon.
Tortellino, there you go. And I'll move this to the back. And very, very gently, I'll position my cherry tomatoes in the middle. Just like this.
Wow.
Yes, I've got a little parsley left. I might just as well sprinkle on top of my tomatoes. Why not?
He can't help himself.
I love parsley. I'll start with a little piece of tomato. If you can get hold of balsamic drizzle, absolutely wonderful. Shortly followed by my wedge. It's wonderful. Very crunchy as well. And let's go for the meat now. I will only use a little piece, otherwise Julie will get jealous.
Yeah, I am jealous. I did actually try a little piece. I've already tried it, actually, everybody. Sorry. And it was delicious.
All of the flavor, all of the flavors are there. The garlic as well, and the herbs. It's absolutely delicious. The thinner you can cut it, by the way, when you're serving like this, the better, because obviously it will melt in your mouth. Arrivederci and grazie. Buon appetito. Ciao.